Okay, so as much as I enjoyed playing the story mode of the Resident Evil 3 remake, it has a lot of changes that I need to address. There are some good things, some bad things, disappointing things, and a good amount of missed opportunities. I'm gonna start with the beginning of the game. I think it was cool to see the inside of Jill's apartment, since that's kind of how the original RE3 started off, only with a still image. So since both games show this to us, they pulled it off much better with the remake. However, I did not like that Nemesis immediately shows up after Jill wakes up from that random nightmare.
Listen, you gotta get out of there!
What are you talking about?
I don't have time to explain. You gotta get out of there right now!
Alright, let me grab my... What the hell is that thing?
By the way, Jill's nightmare in this game was a missed opportunity if you see what the Resident Evil 3 manhwa had in store for her nightmare. In the comic, she ends up back in the Spencer mansion, where she must face off against her worst fears yet again. Only in that comic, her nightmare kicks in after she's been infected and Carlos is out looking for a vaccine. I was expecting to see her nightmare occur during that moment as well, but for some reason they decided to make it be the very beginning part of the game. I get that they were trying to hint that Jill has been sort of traumatized from what happened at the Spencer mansion, but she doesn't exactly show it throughout the game. Then again, Nemesis is after her most of the time, so you could say that she has no time to panic. The reason why I really enjoyed this game though is because it feels like you're watching a movie. I mean, think about it, even a hardcore fan that hates this game would be 100% okay with it if it was actually a movie. The intro to the game felt like it was a movie. Most of the side characters only get a short amount of screen time, so there's more focus on the story. The ending felt very much like a movie as well. That can be both a good and bad thing if you see what I mean. Good because we always wanted to see what a good Resident Evil 3 movie would be like, but bad when you realize that a lot of things would end up being cut. It does suck that certain locations and creatures were not included, but most of them ended up being replaced rather than scrapped. Still though, I wish these two recent remakes did include the zombie crows and giant spiders, because now that we have full control of where to aim and even move while aiming, this could have really come in handy for those two enemy types that move around a lot. The original RE3 had some iconic locations you visit, such as the Clock Tower and the Raccoon City Park, but again, it feels like they did include these locations because you get this. It's like a blend between the two. I love the appearance of this location, it's beautiful, but they didn't end up doing anything with it. We don't encounter a single creature or zombie there. It left me a bit confused because it's a very wide looking area and yet there are no enemies around. If you reach the bridge, that's when a scripted boss fight against Nemesis kicks in, but it doesn't take place in that large area. It takes place right next to that large open area. Again, it left me a bit confused because it almost looked like the game was telling you to familiarize yourself with the environment because something was about to go down. Something does happen, but it takes place away from that specific large area. The boss fights against Nemesis were so much fun. Every time he appeared, I was locked and loaded with enough firepower to temporarily take him down. I was very surprised to see that they went with a whole new take on his mutation halfway through the game. I think this was maybe the best thing they could do since Nemesis in this game isn't as OP as he was in the original. In the original, no matter what I was carrying, I could never tell if I will be walking away victoriously next time I'm about to fight him. But here, with that dodge mechanic, you could pretty much reach the other side of town without a weapon and just dodge like crazy. It's a good thing that you can run right next to Nemesis and he won't automatically grab you like with Mr. X. That's one thing I didn't like that Mr. X could do. Even if you tried running past him after he threw a punch, he would still automatically grab you. Not an issue with Nemi on this game. I didn't like what they did with him on his final boss fight though, because it just doesn't make sense at all as to why he mutated into this giant G-virus looking creature. He's not infected with the G-virus. They actually go through a great amount of detail explaining this on a file that he's mutated from a parasite, not a virus. This was an opportunity to maybe do what Nemesis did in the original, which was absorbing some blood from a dead final formed TWO tyrant. Only in this version, he could have absorbed a tissue sample from a G embryo from William Birkin. After all, we know that Birkin and Nemesis were very close by. It may not have been shown in the game, but we know this because both games take place in very close locations. And even the same locations if you count the police station and the Kendo gun shop. Oh yeah, and the Drain Deimos, they had a much better introduction in this remake. This time, they can infect people in a very similar manner to a xenomorph facehugger.
Get it out! Fucking gross.
It's bone-chilling to see that they can now do this, and many victims had their stomachs ripped open from the inside after the newborn Drain Deimos ate their way out. It reminds me of the spiders from the 2007 film known as The Mist. But, like with the other small issues I had with the story, it's a very short encounter. The Drain Deimos do not appear anywhere else. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they don't appear anywhere else in the original as well. They only show up in the same location they were introduced in, from what I remember. But near the end of the game, there's this part where you have to collect fuses, and there are these containers which have different enemy types inside. They appear, making you face off against every enemy type you've encountered so far. This was awesome. But they left out the Drain Deimos and the Lickers. The Lickers wouldn't be a problem not being introduced here since they weren't meant to appear in RE3, but then again they appeared in the police station in this remake, so might as well include them in this particular part of the game, right? I mean, they even ended up bringing in the Palehead zombies from the RE2 Ghost Survivors DLC. I noticed that the game barely had any puzzles, and the ones that were included were very easy to solve. I thought it was a badass at first, but then I realized, nah, these are just way too easy. But that's okay. They weren't too difficult in the original, I guess. So that's my spoiler review of the game's story. I had a lot of fun with it, gameplay-wise, and because it felt like watching a movie we always wanted. There are still some things that I'd like to talk about, such as Brad's portrayal in the game, but I'd like to compare these differences in a separate video about both the original and remake. That way we can see which game did it better. Because again, even though I did enjoy the game's story, there are some things it did better with, and other things that the original did far greater with. So look forward to that video pretty soon. As for now, that's it for the video. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button to give this video a chance to grow. I'd like to thank all my Patreon supporters for their impeccable generosity. Your support means a lot to me, and you are part of the reason why I try to make the best content that I can. And if you like this content, check out the rest of my channel. You'll find more entertainment from separate franchises I like to cover, such as Mortal Kombat, Dragon Ball Z, Celebrity Deathmatch, Men in Black, The Mask, Batman comics, The Terminator, TMNT, Dino Crises, Resident Evil, and more. If you're a Patreon supporter, check out my exclusive videos such as the Gantz content. And if you'd like to show your support, go to my Patreon and support the channel, which is only $1. Sacrifice that McChicken for extra quality content, my friend. But anyways, I'll see you all in the next video, and remember to have an awesome day.